evening, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. I am your host, as always, Adam Cousins, and I'm joined by one third of my Trios tag team, Dynamite Dave, DMD. Good evening, Dave.
Hello, mate. You okay?
Yeah, have you had your dinner since we last spoke?
Yeah, I'm fed, mate, and I'm ready. I'm looking forward to having another chat about wrestling tonight.
Brilliant.
It's going to be great.
It is indeed. And we obviously on the Hitting Turnbuckle podcast, like yesterday, we had Matt Cardona and Nick Hausman from the States, but we're big on our British wrestling as well. As you know, we do sponsor it. We are putting on a show in July. And we've got another big man from the British wrestling scene here, Iestyn Rees. Good evening.
How are we doing, guys? You all right?
Hey, Iestyn, you okay, mate?
We are
very well. Very well.
Brilliant. Iestyn, we are very happy to have you on, and thanks for taking the time this evening. Let's start with the most recent thing for you. Forever Rivals Wrestling. The Alpha Male becomes the first ever FR World Conquest Champion. First off, congratulations. We did send you that via...
Cheers, guys. Thank you very much.
But when it comes to title wins, Iestyn, obviously every title win is special. It doesn't matter whether you use 1 time, 16 times. But to be the inaugural champion, the first ever, is that just something a bit more special?
Yeah, I think obviously, British wrestling, there's hundreds of promotions out there, lots and lots of titles about. But when a company decides to book you in that position, I think it is an honour because there's so many quality wrestlers across the country, even into Europe, that people could bring in to contest the belt and potentially win it and stuff like that. So I think it is an honour, and the Southwest wrestling scene doesn't get much of a mention, but there's a hell of a lineup of talent down here, guys that are just starting to sort of break out a bit more nationally and stuff like that. So to be put in a position and given that responsibility, it's always an honour.
Yeah, definitely. We funnily enough, we obviously from the Welsh background, we sponsor Pro Wrestling Carnage.
Yeah,
a company out in Wales, and there's a tag team there. They do know you apparently. I don't know if it's many years ago though. They're a tag team called Beers and Beatdowns, and it's Brewski Blanche, and it's Dan Thomas who plays Danny Owen, Dangerous Danger, or whatever he's called. Yeah, but we sponsor them as well. They do say hello. I did say you were coming on.
Long time I've seen those boys. Back that was more when I was a young up and comer. Now I'm definitely a bit more of a seasoned veteran, but yeah, no, both those guys, definitely been on lots of shows with them previously.
Yeah, we love sponsoring them as well. We literally on the actually Blanche come on. We had EC3 on last week.
Yeah,
Blanche decided we invited him along as a special guest, and they got on very well actually. Just we're talking about British wrestling, not even British wrestling. No, Iestyn. Your views on wrestling in 2023 in general, how do you think it is now compared to pre-pandemic?
I'd definitely say on the independent scene, it's a different situation. I think that shows this year have definitely been more on the up. I think that there was a lot of, obviously with everyone coming back from the pandemic, there was a lot of smaller crowds, families potentially not wanting to go out and stuff like that. And I do think that this year there's definitely been an upturn that I've seen on the shows that I've worked in crowd numbers and stuff like that. And I know that across when I'm going over to Austria, July, and that they've managed to keep a good crowd the last 2 years, even through the pandemic, for a 2-day tournament, 2-day show, where 2 years ago, even in the pandemic, they had 600 a night. Last year, 750, and they're looking 800 a night. They've extended the sort of venue and the seating and stuff like that. So I do think that there is a general upturn. I think that on the higher end of the independents, I'd say the talent is as good as it's ever been, probably even better. I'd say there's a lot of guys coming through. So I think that generally, for the most part with shows, fans and families and stuff, when they're paying their ticket money, for the most part, they're getting value for money and getting a hell of a show, really.
Yeah, definitely. Totally agree with that. And so in terms of even in wrestling 2023 in America, do you think now it helps because it's been WWE the thing for so long, and it's generally always been just one promotion, but now you can realistically, from a realistic aspect, you could say, okay, AEW, Impact Wrestling, even NWA now is getting this big following because they went over to Australia, they broadcast it on YouTube. Is that now helping, do you think? Because now you may think, well, my talent's, more how I work maybe not better suited there, but over there. So now there's more flavors. Does that help people from England get that opportunity if they need it?
Yeah, I think that when there was just a WWE, I think apart from the independent scene, where you'd have independent guys that worked it, like, most people would be working towards that, trying to work towards that WWE style because that was the only game in town. Now you've got different flavors. AEW's TV products is definitely different from WWE's, which is different from Impact, which again is different from NWA. I really like the resurgence in the NWA because I feel that the type of shows that they put on, they're the type of shows that I would do well in. There has been some discussions previously between myself and the management there, and obviously I wrestled Nick for the NWA World Title pre-pandemic and stuff like that. So I think for my skill set and my look and the way I wrestle, obviously, people being able to be exposed to different types of wrestling means that the fans are then more appreciative of different styles when they go to a show. I've always thought that shows should be a bit like a 5-ring circus. You should have a heavyweight match, a tag team match, a high flying match, a technical match, a comedy match, and I think that all of those aspects are now well catered for in the what I'd call the mainstream of wrestling. So therefore, they go to shows, they're like, oh, I've seen guys like this wrestle on NWA, or I've seen guys wrestle like this on AEW, and they can appreciate all those different types of styles. As I think previously, probably say pre-pandemic, AEW and those other guys getting a little bit bigger, fans had their style of wrestling and I only like this and I only want to see this, and I think that kind of made some of the shows a bit more samey. Every match was kind of the same, whereas I think we can have a more variety in shows now, definitely.
What was your introduction to wrestling, Iestyn? Was it you an Attitude Era guy, or were you a fan of wrestling growing up, or was it later on?
I'm much earlier than that. So my wrestling, so my cousin got Sky TV back when I was about 7 years old. So I was around his house one day and he put the wrestling on. I was like, oh my God, what's this? And then I'd probably we'd all go to my nan's about once every 6 weeks, 2 months. So he would record all of the superstars, and then he'd give me a tape with, and this is showing how old I am. It would be a long play tape, so
I remember that.
We're at the same age, Iestyn. Don't worry, not old.
And that would be all the squash matches. And then the thing that kind of sealed it for me is he gave me the recording of WrestleMania 7. And the two matches that really sort of stood out to me on that was the Ultimate Warrior, or the one match that really stood out was Ultimate Warrior versus Randy Savage. I was a massive fan of the Ultimate Warrior. I mean, when you're 7 years old and the bloke looks like an action figure superhero, more colours than you even know exist. He was just 7-year-old Iestyn. He was just the man, basically. In that match, 7-year-old Iestyn thinking the Ultimate Warrior is going to retire or be forced to retire. It was pretty dire straits in my house the first time I was watching it, really.
And when did you first consider it as something that you could do and something you could get involved with? And where did you have somebody that trained you specifically?
Yeah, so I was at university, and I think the Wrestling Channel was on cable then, and I started seeing adverts for the FWA school, and I think it was possibly the Future Shock School or whatever that incarnation of what that training school was at the time. But I was a basketball player, and basketball was my main sport, and I was playing at a decent standard, like National League standards, men's National League standards. So it was never really an option because I was all in on the sport. And then when I came home from uni, I did a bit of research. I thought, wow, maybe there's a wrestling school around by me. And I saw there was one. Well, there was three that I looked at. The closest one and the one that looked the best from the guys that they kind of produced and the way their sort of setup was for their shows was 4FW. So one Sunday at 22 years old, I made my way down to Swindon and took part in a session, and that was sort of 18 years ago now, and I've been doing it ever since, really.
Wow. I remember my first, I keep saying on this podcast quite a bit, I trained for about a month, and I learned very quickly and very painfully that it's definitely not for me. And I think also, obviously I was old enough to understand the ins and outs of wrestling by then, but I think it even puts a greater line of respect on what you guys do, because even something as simple, I mean, what actually hurt me most was the body slam. And it's probably one of the most simple, one of the most standard wrestling moves that you learn. But the pain, I don't, for me, I don't know how, I know it's probably adrenaline and things like that, but it just gave me an extra line of respect for everyone, what they do, just because of a simple move like that. And it is split-second timing. I mean,
and people often ask me, oh, does it hurt? Is the ring like a trampoline? I'm like, let me pick you up. I'll put you on my shoulder. That's about 6 foot in the air. You let me throw you on the ring and see how you go. And you know, it's as real as it gets. I mean, you know, are we fighting for our lives in there? Am I breaking anyone's, you know, illusions when I say we're not? But the falls are real. The injuries are real. I mean, wrestling's put me at the surgical knife on 5 different occasions. You know, the injuries are real. I've got less movement in my neck than I should have because of all the constant bumping and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've, you know, torn muscle, ripped tendons off the bone and stuff like that. So, you know, it's as physical as a game of rugby, as a game of American football. It's just that we do it Friday, Saturday and Sunday most weeks and then go from there. And if you're full time, you're obviously doing it even more than that.
So. Yeah, and I mean, even the things that look easier, running the ropes, for example. I mean, you'll probably laugh at this, and you've been doing it a long time, but I had the opportunity to get into a training ring a few years ago. I don't know if you know the Hunter brothers down in the Blackburn, Lane Gym. So I went one day, and watching wrestling my whole life, running the ropes to me was like, yeah, that'd be easy. I'll have a go at that. I'll rip my back to shreds. You know.
Yeah. Obviously coming back, I got injured end of November, then I had my surgery beginning of December, so I didn't get back in the ring till early March. I took a couple of training sessions. I do a monthly training session down at Exposure Wrestling in Newport, and I had to hit the ropes again, and I had bruise on my side. You know, 4 months, your body gets a little bit soft after 4 months, not hitting the ropes and stuff, so that was a bit of a shock to the system. But yeah, I don't think people understand, you know, the ring is, you know, as I'm sure loads of people have alluded to, you know, it's a metal frame, wooden boards, a bit of padding, and then a canvas, and it's, you know, it's not super soft. It's not, you know, it is what it is. It's a metal frame ring. That's what it is basically. Yeah. So.
When you got your first opportunity, when you trained and you were good enough to start appearing on shows, how was that the first show you did, and did you kind of think, yeah, I want more of this?
So yeah, first couple of shows, I mean, I was put in, like, I was under a Mexican lucha mask, and and I was just sent out there as a, you know, a bit of enhancement talent for a tag team that they were trying to push in 4FW at the time. So I did two matches with them, and then almost like not like a closed door show, but one of my jobs, I used to work at a college for teenagers with disabilities, so we kind of started putting on shows there for the students, and so I got to have a few matches in front of the students. So it was kind of like it wasn't, they were paying audience, but it was an in-house kind of production and stuff like that. And then you get out there, you start, even when I was under that mask, that first couple of matches, you start getting out there, you get that reaction from the crowd, and then when I had my first full debut and you get that reaction and stuff like that, it's just, you just want more and more and more of it, basically.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It's a really, like, I don't know. I obviously, we're only as fans, so we can sometimes feel it when we're there, but obviously it being aimed at you is probably a different. You were a part of a team once called the Agenda, right?
Yeah, that was in the FWA.
Yeah, with our good friend Martin Stoner we had on recently.
Yeah.
How was that working with all of those minds? Because obviously, I know you're probably near enough around the same age, give or take a few years. But obviously, there is so much creativity that you can do as part of a group. So did you find that you were leaning on one or the other, or someone was better off at giving this advice or doing that in the ring?
Yeah, Dave and Dave Mastiff and Mark, the more senior members of it. So, they would kind of point us in the right direction. And obviously, and then it was just one of those things where, lots of things going into the mixing pot, but you obviously listen to those experienced guys, and you're basically just trying to be a sponge and pick up as much as you can. And obviously we were working the top talent in the FWA, so you're in there with all the best guys in the country and stuff like that. So and I was probably, out of everyone in that group, I was probably the least experienced. So I was just trying to be a sponge, trying to basically just get as much knowledge as I could off of all those top guys. And I feel like a bit of a letdown. All the rest of them got signed by WWE, and I never got signed there. So it is what it is. But it's just one of those things. Just a great opportunity with a great bunch of lads, basically.
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't worry too much about going to WWE. I mean, it's not the be all and end all now. It probably was back then, but it certainly isn't now. Yes, and we're going to have a little game of, well, we call it Shot Clock. It's not. It's taken off of Steve Austin's podcast. number one, we don't drink shots and we don't time it. So we'd be seriously intoxicated by the time that would finish. All it is, I'm going to just reel off some random wrestling questions, and it's just for you to answer. So the first one is, what would be your dream arena to perform in, and why?
I mean, it'd have to be Madison Square Garden. I mean, there or the Millennium Stadium, whatever, Principality Stadium in Cardiff. I mean, I've watched numerous rugby games there. Obviously, big Welsh rugby fan. Little side note to this, this probably is going to slow this down, but I don't know if you've seen the Guinness advert with the two brothers and the purse. That's my dad. That's my dad and my uncle. It's a true story. And they actually act in the advert as well. So I've had some pretty cool experiences at the stadium. I've been on the stadium when I've been on the pitch when the national anthems have been sung and stuff like that. So there or Madison Square Garden, purely because of the history of that being, you know, the wrestling venue. If you talk to anyone, definitely.
Yeah, it certainly is. Although the surrounding areas ain't that great. I've been around there. It's one of the most unsafest places I've felt in New York. It was just
after dark in New York. It's not the nicest of nice. You want to get out, basically.
Yeah, you certainly do. What was your favorite pay-per-view to watch? If it's one you had to watch religiously every year, what one would it be?
Royal Rumble 2000. That was when I kind of got back into wrestling. That because obviously that was on Channel 4.
Yes.
I kind of growing up, obviously didn't. As I started playing sport and stuff at the weekends, wasn't seeing my cousin as much. I didn't get the video, so I kind of missed the whole sort of new generation and start of the Attitude Era, just because I just didn't have access to the TV channels and stuff like that. So obviously heard that the Royal Rumble was going to be on Channel 4, so got that. You know, stayed up late, watched it, and and then you know the Mick Foley, Cactus Jack, Triple H match I think that reignited my my love for professional wrestling, basically. So if I could watch. That'd be the one I'd watch over and over.
Royal Rumble. Sorry, Dave, go on.
I was just say, was that the year Rock and Big Show?
Yeah,
landed at the same time.
Yeah. The Rock won that one. Yeah, I must admit, my favorite pay-per-view as a whole is Royal Rumble. I'm going out there in January next year to. It's what I've been to. I've got a bucket list. I've done 5 WrestleManias. I only meant to do 1, ended up doing 5. We met. That's funny. That's where I met Dave. Miami, funnily enough, sweating outside of was it outside of Raw, Dave, or WrestleMania? I can't remember now.
I think it might have been the Hall of Fame.
Might have been the Hall of Fame, yeah.
Hall of Fame, yeah.
And that's the last time I saw Dave up until April this year.
Yeah.
So WrestleMania 28. It wasn't so about 11 years. I'm going out there for the Royal Rumble to get off my bucket list. So the next question, Iestyn, just say this. Doesn't matter what company phones you and says, right, fatal 4-way. Yes, Iestyn Rees. You can have a past, a present, and an up-and-coming talent to be in a fatal 4-way. Who would you choose?
Current, Gunther, because I never got to wrestle him on the Indies. I tagged with him, but never got to wrestle him.
Oh, really?
Past, William Regal.
Love it.
Just because when I've been around, the times I've spent training at WWE and stuff, he is just like, the knowledge is just unbelievable. Up and comer. Whoa. Probably Gabe Kidd, another one that we've never had a singles or anything like that. I think that match would be pretty hard hitting and pretty tasty, so that'd be good.
Does Gunther's chops sound as loud when you watch it?
Even worse when you're literally on the ring apron and he's doing it to someone. Yeah, definitely.
I mean, they are nuts.
Just a couple of questions on that. In terms of your experience at the WWE, did you have tryouts then? Were you in that environment?
Yeah, so a long time ago, I went to some tryouts that were basically the kind of tryouts you kind of would have seen on Beyond the Mat, where you turn up, you be in your gear before the Raw or SmackDown taping. They get in and go like, you get in there, wrestle, go. And then I've been to 2 tryouts since then, which were when NXT was up and running, which was more of an actual tryout, running through drills, and there were some matches involved, but it was more of a sort of training camp. So I did one prior to Raw and SmackDown in 2017, where I was used as an extra on Raw that night as well. And then I did one at the Performance Center, which was like a 2.5-day, 3-day one. And then I got asked back for just the January of 2020, just before COVID all kicked off. I was there. I was lucky enough to have a week at the Performance Center and then work some dark matches before NXT UK taping.
Wow.
Are you hoping for another opportunity there in the future? Because obviously there's been talk of NXT Europe. Is that something that you
going in? As I've just turned 40, I'm probably not in the age demographic that they're looking for. Obviously, if anything was ever offered, even if it was just to come in and you know, be enhancement talent and stuff like that. Obviously, anytime where you get to be around, you know, the producers, the coaches, and the roster itself, you know, in WWE is a great learning experience. And you know, if I would go, definitely, if there was something offered and stuff like that, it would definitely be something I'd have to consider strongly and would probably take.
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the question. So this is a two-part question. The first question is, what is your favorite wrestling entrance music? Yeah, it stumps a lot of people. Don't worry.
Probably the Legion of Doom, because again, they were big favourites when I was a kid. Yeah. And that WWE, WWF music is so iconic. I think that would probably be the one, definitely.
And the pop to go with it, right?
Oh, definitely.
Dave's normally a Brood. So you're normally the Brood, aren't you, Dave?
I love the Brood, yeah. When
Mine,
they did the full entrance as well.
Yeah.
I was a bit gutted that they didn't have Gangrel out with him for the entrance.
Oh, mate, exactly the same.
I've been obviously on lots of shows with Gangrel, and there was talk that he was going to be there for the entrance and stuff like that. When he wasn't involved.
I do this fantasy booking thing, Adam, as well. You know, we talk about stuff, and we're just fans, and you know, we talk about potential matches and potential things. And at WrestleMania, the one thing that I really wanted was that Edge entrance. I probably thought that Christian wouldn't be able to be there, but like you say, I was hoping Gangrel would be involved.
Yeah,
no, it would have.
Yeah, it would have been.
That'd have been brilliant. And so, second part of that question is your favorite wrestling entrance or the presentation.
Probably one of the Triple H Mania ones, because I think that they were always such a big production and stuff like that. The one at, was it 30 with the gold throne?
Might have been. Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah. One where also the one where he launched the sledgehammer through the glass.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one was that. 29.
Might have been. It might have been the one. I think that would have been the one where he took on the No, it wasn't the Undertaker. They'd done the last match, didn't they? Hell in a Cell at 28.
Yeah,
it's throwing me, but I remember the entrance vividly. I know the entrance. I just can't remember what Mania it is. The ones that I had, I mean, I always loved the Undertaker's entrance. Well, that was something really special. I've been fortunate enough to meet him twice, and he's one of the only wrestlers gone.
WrestleMania 25. That was.
Was it? Christ, was it that long? I was there.
Yeah.
I was there. That's what made it. That was WrestleMania.
That him versus Sheamus, was that 20? No, 25 was
Randy Orton. He took on Randy Orton at 25.
Yeah.
Because that was when Shawn Michaels come down from heaven, Undertaker rose from hell at the start of their trilogy matches. Yeah, that was 20. Geez, that 25, really? I was there. I should have known that. My God. Anyway, I would say the Undertaker was one of my, for the presentation, for the entrance. I can't imagine what it's like sort of standing in that ring and just looking as he's coming down. It would, I think I would probably die at that point, to be fair. I wouldn't be able to. Well, one of my favorite musics was Triple H, actually, the game. I always find that as a really good tune. Iestyn, we're getting ready to finish up. Why don't you tell everybody what you got coming up, where you're going to be, when are you defending that title that you've just won as well?
So next, because again, this is one of the issues when you're an independent wrestler. Show dates get booked in and there's clashes and stuff like that. So I'll be defending the title. My first defense is going to be in September. I'm not 100% sure on the date. I think it's early September. But yeah, coming up. So I've got Evolution Wrestling this Saturday in my hometown of Gloucester. And then my next one will be Sov Pro on the 11th of June up in Manchester. I'm then away for a couple of weeks on holiday. Going to have a bit of R&R in the morning. Not showing off or anything, but and then July, things pick back up in July. I haven't got my diaries on my phone, which is recording this, so I can't tell you the exacts. But yeah, that's the next two things that I'm at. And I also, as I said, run a training session at Exposure Wrestling once a month, so I'll be there on Sunday this week as well.
So just before we start wrapping up, Dave, and doing about our guests, what is the main bit of advice that you tell your people that you're training? What's the best advice that you could probably give them, would you say?
I always try and say that, our goal as wrestlers is to make the audience suspend their disbelief. I like to base my style of wrestling as close to reality as you can. So I don't like stuff where guys are obviously cooperating or obviously standing there waiting for something to happen. So I try and coach a lot of the little nuances, the little, ways to make it look that more real. And again, not leaving holes in people's work. So it's not about being overly, stiff or knocking the crap into people, but making everything look
authentic.
Like you're in there for a fight and stuff like that, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that is really good advice, actually.
Especially young, newer guys, they just rush. I'm like, if you think you're going too slow, slow down even more.
Yeah.
Is there anyone on the UK scene, Iestyn, that you really like to get in the ring with on the UK scene at the minute? Somebody that might want to come along and challenge you for your title at some point?
Big Saxon Huxley. Like, I know he's making massive waves in Japan. I think me and him could have a head of a tear up. Sam Gradwell, someone I haven't wrestled for a long time. Stuff was in the work previously before I got injured, and that kind of got shelved because of me getting injured and stuff like that. I'll wrestle anyone. Like, there's a load of young guys out there that, I was probably, they might not have even been born when I started wrestling or very close to. They definitely weren't in school. I'd happily wrestle anyone, any style. I think that, wrestling me is probably different to what a lot of the guys that they'll wrestle. So I think, and styles make matches. And I think sometimes, a bit of a styles clash can definitely make a really interesting match.
No pun intended there, Iestyn, no? Styles
clash. No.
I'll get beers and beatdowns to hit you up and get you over to Carnage in Wales. That'd be great. Right, we're going to wrap it up there. So let me just do with what we've got coming up. Dave, you and Andy are back on Sunday. I'm attending Jurassic Pro Wrestling on behalf of the Hitting the Turnbuckle. We're a sponsor over there, so I'm going to be doing some live interviews at that event. Is it Matt Cohn you've got?
Matt Cohn we got, yeah.
Yep. Sunday. Tuesday, we've got Steph DeLander, Matt Cardona's running buddy at the minute, coming on just before they come over for One Pro Wrestling. Wednesday, we've got Harrison Leon as another big independent talent in the UK, was actually at Ignite Wrestle Pro the last time I went at the back end of April. Dave, me and you are back doing the Dynamite review as well next week. The week after, we've got Angelina Love coming on, and we've got Alexandra Wolf the day before my birthday, which will be... He said he's not singing happy birthday to me, Dave, but I think we need to get him to do so. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm sure a little bit of encouragement, mate.
Yeah, and then we've got another independent talent, Scotty Rourke, coming on for June. And Scotty's coming on specifically for Buckle Up, which is our event that we're putting on in partnership with Ignite Wrestle Pro on July the 23rd. So get your tickets if you can. Iestyn, it's been great talking to you today. Thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come in to chat to us about wrestling. We really do appreciate it.
Guys, thanks for having me on. Just one more date. Yeah, we're going out to Austria, 7th and 8th of July in Vienna. As I said, that'll be the big show. There'll be, like I said, about 1,600 people in total over the 2 days attending that show. Forward to that.
Brilliant.
Will it be available on YouTube, Iestyn, or is it on their website?
I will check with the promoters. They normally have a camera crew there. I mean, Austria is such a strange country when it comes to wrestling like this. This show will be featured on the national. I'm going out for a press conference on a Thursday before the show, Friday, Saturday, and they'll have the national news, all the big national newspapers. We're talking like the equivalent of our Red Tops there for this press conference, and there'll be at least 2 national news channels. So it does garner some big attention. So there's always a film crew there. So I'll see if they can film the match and try and get them on YouTube and go from there.
Fantastic.
That would be great.
So much more accessible for fans these days, isn't it? Watching like the independent scene and checking out different promotions and, all across Europe and the States. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, wrestling fans, even with me, when I was growing up, you scour on the internet, you'd hear about these sort of shows, even the Ring of Honors were harder to get hold of when I started watching like that. Now, you could watch a match from 40 years ago, you could watch a match from 40 minutes ago. If it's on the internet, you can get hold of it basically.
Yeah, you absolutely can. Good luck in Austria. We'll be keeping an eye out. Good luck when you go back and defend your title. We'll be keeping an eye on it. They've asked me to send the link to the press to this interview to them actually, so I'll be sure. I'll be sure to do so. Yes, and it's been fantastic speaking to you, Dave. Good luck on Sunday with your first podcast with Andy and not me. I'm sure you'll be fine. And I will be back with you guys on Tuesday. This has been the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast with Dave, Iestyn, and Adam, and we'll see you again soon. Good night.